Chainsaw Man Part 2 has a bit of a villain problem, which isn't an overall issue, but instead something very purposeful in design. Think of Nostradamus' prophecy, that is currently the only thing that has this universal hatred and villainry behind it. You could claim it to be the big bad final boss. It's what's actually steering the direction of Chainsaw Man's narrative currently. However, there is one character that is becoming more and more torn between different opportunities. That is none other than Denji. He is currently in a position where multiple different people, multiple different organizations can set him up to be the main villain, an anti-hero of sorts. And while this can be a very interesting direction for Fujimoto to take and seems kind of fitting for the type of character Denji wants to portray, it's a little bit difficult to balance. And something that I'm curious if people would actually enjoy. It might sound sad and tragic, but let me paint a bigger picture for you. Currently, you could say that we have our hero, or at least the story's hero, which is currently going to be Asa Mitaka. Now, she is a part of the Chainsaw Man Church, and the Chainsaw Man Church has a bunch of different hybrids, but seemingly they don't work with public safety. Now, public safety is trying to keep Denji from being Chainsaw Man. For whatever personal reason they have, we don't know, but that's what they want to do. Chainsaw Man Church want Denji to be a part of their group, ultimately to be used as a weapon, as that would be its purpose. There's 4 other hybrids within there that have an agenda to push. Naturally, it's safe to assume Denji would also be a part of that if he joined. So we have 2 different problems. Public safety doesn't want Denji to do this. Chainsaw Man Church wants Denji to do this. Denji himself doesn't want to do either of those things. He wants to be Chainsaw Man, but on his own merits. He doesn't want to be a part of the church and the organization that idealizes him and even fabricates different stories, and he doesn't want to listen to public safety because they are threatening his lifestyle. That's the reason he won't even turn into Chainsaw Man, is because they threaten Naoyuta. So do you see the bigger picture that's currently being painted? Fami wants to wield war. That was her original plan to fight Nostradamus' prophecy. Now we have the next best thing. Listen, leave a like and subscribe, or I will chase after you. Fami could evidently wield war again, but now war is infinitely more powerful than before and has all of the hybrids underneath her control and anything related to the church worshippers. She has an arsenal of weapons. At the end of the day, Fami got the tool that she wanted, and that tool has now a bunch of other tools underneath it, and those being hybrids. So undoubtedly, Nostradamus' prophecy will arrive. The question is, what will Denji do? And there seems to be a bit of a conflict, not necessarily within the church, but within the ideology of different people within the church. Miri Shugo, who we know as Sword Guy, doesn't seem to follow fully what the church actually represents. He has his own opinion, which is that of helping people. He may be an ally for Denji eventually. However, Barum, who we recently got introduced to, seems very sinister, and this chapter confirms that. He's willing to go above and beyond to push this sinister agenda for the Chainsaw Man Church and ultimately Fami. So you could assume, and very safely so, that there may be a split eventually. Some of those people within the church will ultimately side with Denji. Here's the issue. Depending on what Fami and the church want to do with Denji, they will provoke him. They want him to join because he is the ultimate form of hybrid weaponry. It doesn't get more powerful than him. If you want to stop something, if you want to wipe it from existence, Pochita is needed, and a trigger, which is what we talked about in the previous chapter, has to be activated. Now, what is that trigger? What could be something that triggers Denji to evolve into that full armor Pochita form? Asa Mitaka being killed definitely made Denji panic, but the real answer, the problem, is none other than Naoyuta. And what a better way to open up the chapter than with showing us their day-to-day routine, their lifestyle, building up this beautiful relationship that they have, being very content with life. Not Denji, but Naoyuta. To me, this is the calm before the storm. Seeing Naoyuta and Denji so happy, enjoying life, and kind of just going through the day-to-day motion, even though Denji's very unsure about it and still not fully hooked into the idea and questioning himself and things around him. This screams red alarms. Like, I do not feel okay reading this personally because I know that something's around the corner. And the fact that we have a 2-week break till the next chapter makes me believe it to be so. This lifestyle that Denji has currently, which you can easily consider it to be the city mouse trying to conflate with the country country mouse. This is something that's been brought up quite often within Chainsaw Man, and it's very simple. It's basically just country mouse, quiet, simple, plain lifestyle, doesn't really have anything crazy going on. City mouse, very crazy, expensive food, expensive taste, but filled with a lot of dangers and issues. Finding out who you are between either of those things is very difficult, and to kind of pen Denji as either or is probably inaccurate. He is a mixture of both, and he's trying to find what means well to him. The opening of this chapter is a great example of him enjoying his time with Naoyuta and the simplicity of it, but you can see that change as soon as he sees a devil. He lights up. His face is filled with brightness and he's ready to fight, but he realizes that he can't. He is a mixture of both. He loves to be Chainsaw Man. He is constantly reminded of the power that Chainsaw Man, he is constantly reminded of the influence that Chainsaw Man has. He just tried to buy food and he's seen himself on packaging. All of this is rotating around his simple lifestyle. Eerily enough, funnels back into the importance of Naoyuta. And I think this is very purposeful for Fujimoto to do. That even though Denji doesn't really like what he's doing now, he's only doing it because of Naoyuta, because there is someone that is meaningful alongside him that he wants to give the best life possible to, free of any sort of dangers. There is two things that have me scared. The first one is a little bit more symbolic and showing that the plant that Naoyuta has is dying very rapidly compared to Denji's. This was shown before at the beginning of the story when she was first introduced. It's a lot more dead now, I'll put it like that. Secondly, the angle of which Denji is not happy. You do not see his facial expressions. He's constantly looking away from Naoyuta, trying to seek the next thing, but because Fujimoto is so expressionable with his facial designs and being able to understand a character on such a level because of it, for once, he's actually not shown the face. You are not meant to know what Denji is thinking rather than just the words that he is saying. I think this is very important but highlights a key issue, that Naoyuta is the one not necessarily holding Denji back, but the only thing keeping him here. If she vanishes, if she gets abducted, if someone tries to utilize her as leverage, Denji will lose control and that will become a trigger. You can see him starting to disconnect, but then as soon as Naoyuta, while she's sleeping, expresses how she'll stay with him for the rest of his life and that he can be happy because she's cute, he's okay with that. He's willing to sacrifice everything just to protect her and be with her, kind of fulfilling that big brother fatherly role that he was forced into. It's very sad and self-sacrificial, but something that he's willing to do. The point is that something is being actively taken away from Denji on purpose so he can be manipulated and used as some sort of weapon. He will fight for her, and that may actually be the problem. This may accidentally coincide with Nostradamus' prophecy. And do you remember the one thing that Chainsaw Man, or Pochita's full form, would listen to when people were in danger? Save me, Chainsaw Man. Imagine this, the prophecy comes true, all of these devils start to flood in or whatever, however it happens, and cause havoc on Earth. People that now know about Chainsaw Man and worship him so desperately are going to call out for his name. He's going to be activated. He's going to fight regardless. This lines up perfectly with what Fami is doing, building this worldwide recognition for Chainsaw Man's name. If he potentially kills innocent civilians because they're calling out to help and they don't fulfill his desires, then the only other person that could potentially save or even defeat Chainsaw Man is Asamitaka with War and all the other hybrids. Do you see how easily the perception towards Chainsaw Man could be viewed as a big bad villain? The rest of this chapter focuses on the movement of Chainsaw Man Church. They're about to kind of push something into motion and they're going to be utilized as weapons. So maybe a testing ground of sorts, maybe for War, Fami, whoever, but we have 4 of them. I believe there's 2 more that we're missing, which would be Xuanxi and Reze, right? Is there a third that we're missing? How many weapon hybrids are there in total? I can't remember. I think that's pretty purposeful as well. Kind of build that excitement or anticipation, not to show off Reze or Xuanxi. I get it. They're also arguably the most powerful ones, I would say, or at least the most explosive, no pun intended. But there is something happening tomorrow and a lot of people are going to get killed, but public safety is most likely going to get involved. So I'm kind of questioning the semantics and the politics of this upcoming upcoming battle and truly what Yoshida and Fami are doing. I believe they must know about somewhat of each other's intentions, but not necessarily the means of how to get to it. Does that make sense? I don't think they're working together, but I do think they have a lot more information on each other and are trying to foil each other's plans. Fami's just trying to push forward. All we know now is that the church is moving tomorrow. They're doing something that's big, and I'm very scared of what this outcome is going to be, because who knows? Is it directed towards Denji? Are we trying to lure him out? Are we trying to test the limitations of the hybrids or war? Whatever it may be, I don't know. Again, there is a 2-week break, so we will have to wait, but sooner or later, I think we are going to see Xuanxi and Reze once again, which would be absolutely phenomenal, and may even change our perception of how the church works, but also how they interact with potentially Denji. That would be an interesting confrontation.